Hi, this is Reea, and what I've got for you today is a discussion on what makes a good reading. Now that could be a reading with a psychic, a clairvoyant, a channeler, a medium, or anyone that works in that field. So I've made a list of the things that I think a good reading requires. The first one is connection. It's really important when you do any work where you are working individually with people in a service-oriented intention that you connect with them. This is a heart-to-heart and mind-to-mind connection of body, mind, and soul that we are doing. And I think that's really, really important. Now, why have I put that as number one? Because I've had readings before with people that I felt no connection with. And hopefully I would hope that when people have a reading with me, that they do feel that connection. I trained, before I started doing readings, I was trained in life coaching, counselling, clinical hypnotherapy, and for many, many years, 23 years or so, I was a teacher. So I'm well aware of the power of connection, that it is the most important thing when you are working with people. Therapists know that if they don't get a connection with their client, then they have minimal to no chance of being helping that client change or helping that client get what they need out of a session. So I think that people who work in this field of doing readings should come under a lot of the same skill set as counsellors and therapists. They need a lot of the same skills, and of course they're not trained in those. There is no training really for people who work in this field. Now I've done lots of training, I've done lots of courses, but probably the people that I did the courses with were entrepreneurs who were self-marketing and were self-taught, and they didn't have any training either. It's not like when you become a counsellor or even a life coach where there is professional bodies that you can belong to and diploma courses that you can go and do to make sure that you've got the right skills. So many people who are doing readings are self-taught. They're doing the best that they can, but they lack some of the basic skills that I think are necessary to work one-on-one with anyone. So connection would be my first one. My second one would be empathy. It's really important that anyone you work with feels that you have empathy for them. That's a human connection again, isn't it? That you could, if necessary, walk a mile in their moccasins, understand what it is like to be them. Now, you don't have to be that big an empath that you're feeling frequency by frequency exactly the same thing that they're feeling. In fact, all counsellors and psychotherapists know that you have to be able to feel what your client's feeling, but not at the same intensity, because if you were feeling it at the same intensity, it would impair your capacity to be able to help them. But empathy is very, very important. I want my clients to know that I really understand what it is that they're going through, and I can feel compassion for them. Compassion is another very important aspect of this work. We have to be kind and compassionate, and I've been to a lot of readers who weren't. They might have been a little bit on that kind of narcissistic side, full of themselves, and didn't come across as very compassionate or caring. I think compassion's very important in any work that you do that is spiritual. When we're talking about working with higher guidance, working with soul, higher self, then we need to be able to bring through some of that love, compassion, and caring of God, Goddess, all that is. The next thing that I think is important is spiritual knowledge. I think that understanding or having a high level of spiritual knowledge is important. Some people may disagree with me. If you disagree, please leave me a comment. But I know that I've been disappointed before when I first started having readings, and that was a long, long time ago. We probably go back to the 1980s sometime when I had when I probably had my first reading. I started to awaken in 1987 with the harmonic convergence, and so it's been a journey since then. But I know in the beginning, I would go to readers and I would be disappointed that they didn't seem to know as much as I knew about spirituality in general. Now, this is, of course, a vast, vast field of knowledge, just like philosophy is a vast field of knowledge and psychology is a vast field of knowledge. But I think it behooves everyone who does a reading to have done their homework and to have done some study. And so you would be looking at studying all of the things that I'm interested in: philosophy, psychology, metaphysics, spirituality, personal development, those sorts of things. I notice a lot of people who read now are actually getting skills in counselling or life coaching, and I think that's a good thing because it gives you a basic skill set to be able to use your special gifts and abilities in a much higher way. So spiritual knowledge to me is very important. I also think that readers need to have a high vibration. So would you go to a reader who wasn't very intelligent, seemed to have a mental illness, and didn't take care of themselves physically, emotionally, or psychologically? Probably not. Having a high vibration is a really important thing because it doesn't matter how you employ your skills or what skill set you have in this field. In order for you to access that skill set and use it as effectively as you possibly can, you need to have a high vibration, as high a vibration as you possibly can. So what do I mean when I say high vibration? I mean that your physical, mental, emotional, psychological and spiritual or soul self is as clear as it can possibly be. That may mean that you have to have done your own self-awareness work, your own shadow work, got in touch with your own demons, know what your own shit is, I like to say. And you have to have done some healing work around that. So if we're hanging on to deep emotional and psychological pain, that is going to lower our vibration. If you're not a very nice person and you are someone who acts out of blame and revenge and victimhood and cruelty towards others, well, that's going to lower your vibration. And this instrument that we use to bring through messages from source or higher guidance needs to be healthy in order to bring through those messages as well as we can. So, lots of people who work in this field who do readings are vegetarian or vegan, for instance. Not that I am. I don't mind eating meat, I have to tell you, but I eat very little of it. I very much listen to my own intuition where that comes through. And I have been told by my own higher guidance and a lot of other channelers and teachers that I've spoken to that this whole notion that in order to be spiritual you have to be vegan or vegetarian is not actually true. However, I have to tell you that most of my diet is comprised of fruit and vegetables because that's what I like to eat. That's what resonates with me the most. But if I was drinking massive amounts of alcohol, taking drugs, eating crap food, eating lots of sugar, not getting any exercise, then I would expect that my instrument was not going to be as pure and as healthy as it possibly could be. It would lower my vibration and prevent me from being able to access higher guidance in a pure way and an undistorted way. So having a high vibration, I think, is really, really important. The other thing I think is important is the potential or the skill of being able to listen. One of the things that I learnt from training in life coaching and counselling and psychotherapy is that art of listening, and I think it's really, really important. I don't like to go to a reader who talks at me the whole time, never asks me what I want to know or what I want to understand, or never asks me for any clarity around issues, never gives me the opportunity to say what I need to say. Now, I have to kind of preface this by saying I have had many clients who came to me and wanted to talk the whole way through the session, and that's a bit disconcerting because I can't give them the information that they came here to get if they talk the whole time. You know, when we're taught counselling, we're taught that counsellors should speak for only about 10 minutes out of the hour, and the client should speak for the rest of the time, you know, 10% to a 90% kind of thing. And so I think that's not the case when you go to a reader. Obviously, you want to get information. I'd probably say that if I was asked, I would say that the reader should speak for 75% of the time and the client 25% of the time. So that means that the person who's doing the reading needs to be able to listen, comprehend, take in, understand, and reflect what you're saying. And so that's a skill that I see a lot of people in our current society don't have. And I know you know what I'm talking about. There are people who only listen, waiting for you to stop talking so they can interject and say what they want to say. And they're not actually listening to what you're saying. So I think active listening is a skill that anyone who works one-on-one with people should have, and that includes people who are doing readings. Now, at the beginning of any reading that I'm having, I want to know that that reader knows something about me, that it is a personalised reading. They're not just telling the same thing to everybody. You don't see this so much. Well, yes, you do. You see it with psychics, but you also see it with channelers, and I've had that experience. That, you know, I had a whole hour session with a channeler or a psychic, and I didn't hear one thing that made me think, this person really has access to higher guidance, to the Akashic records, to my soul and my guides. So the reading has to be, to some degree, personalised or individualised really early in the session. I want to hear something that is something about myself I already know, or something about myself that I really resonate with, and I go, yeah, that's me. You're talking about me there. And I think that's important because there are a lot of charlatans in this field. There are a lot of people who say they have psychic skills and ability, or they're channeling, and maybe they have good intentions, but they're not very good at what they do. So it's important for me to have that knowing that, yes, this is really all about me. And they're not just regurgitating generalised information about, you know, the law of attraction and how you create your reality, for instance, as a lot of them do. I also want, in a reading, I want some kind of challenging information to come through. So you've got to be careful when you're working with people how you word things, the tone and the way you express yourself when you're going to challenge someone. But I don't want a reading where someone just tells me everything I want to hear and never gives me any information that might make me stop and say, yeah, that's something about myself I need to become more aware of, or something I was a little bit in denial of. I think getting feedback about how we're really seen in the world and how our issues are impacting our relationships, our careers, is really important. So I don't want someone being mean to me. I don't want someone spending the whole session challenging me and telling me awful things about myself. But I do want some of my shadow to be revealed during the reading. Now I have to say here that, you know, the guy that I connect with, the goddess Maat, will never tell you anything that is negative or cruel. And I would not go to any reader or channeler who did that. The purpose of higher guidance is always to lovingly uplift you and to make you feel better and to say, yes, come this way, not scare you by going, no, don't do that, and you're at risk here. That kind of information is very old energy. It's kind of fortune teller, scary stuff that comes from a bygone age, and certainly doesn't resonate with the kind of energy or information that comes through when I connect to Goddess Maat. Now, Goddess Maat is the ancient Egyptian goddess of truth, justice and harmony. And I've been connecting with her for about 13 years now, and it's only just recently that I've come out and said, yes, I'm channeling. I've kind of poked my nose out of my little mouse hole a few times and pulled it back in from lack of confidence, and because I wanted to make sure that I was being authentic, that I wasn't distorting the information that was coming through, that it wasn't just coming from my consciousness, that it was actually coming from a higher source. I'm a truth teller, and my clients will tell you that. And I like to be authentic. So if I've had moments where I've lost my confidence over my ability to channel, then I have stopped doing it and gone back to using my psychic skills and abilities when I'm doing a reading. But I've continued to practice, and I've continued to work on this connection I have with Goddess Maat, because I believe that it's powerful and valuable to both myself and to my clients and to the planet at this time. We are awakening, and part of the purpose, or my life purpose, is to help others awaken. Now, I may be only a few steps ahead of you on the ladder, but that's true of all people who work with others, all therapists, psychics, channelers. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to have something to teach, have something to share, and maybe have walked your path or stood where you're standing and be able to give you some guidance. So working with Goddess Maat's been an absolute joy. I really, really love it. She was the goddess who gave the Egyptian people the 42 laws of Maat, so there are 42 rules for life, you might want to say. And I can't confirm this, I can't guarantee it, but I have been told that the Moses' 10 commandments actually were taken from the 42 laws of Maat. The 42 laws of Maat certainly seem to predate the 10 commandments, and of course we're talking about a similar area or zone of the planet where that information all came from. But Goddess Maat didn't just exist in Egypt. That's where the name Goddess Maat comes from. But she was also the Divine Mother. So she is the Divine Mother through many ancient civilizations. She was called Mami in Sumeria, and that's where we get the word mum or mummy from. She was called in other areas of Babylon and Mesopotamia and Greece and Rome. She had various names, Ninmah, Ninsurhag, Ops, and she was also called Reea in Greece. Fancy that, huh? And that was one of those synchronicities or coincidences. I changed my name to Reea in 2010, but that was 5 years before I found out that Goddess Maat was also called Reea. So, but as I said, I was connecting with Goddess Maat in 2007. So, she was obviously pushing me in that direction and helping me out there. I am not the Goddess Maat, let me tell you, but apparently I did have other lifetimes with Goddess Maat, and that's where we got our connection from, and why I have connected with her when I was calling out to Spirit for answers in my moments of grief and my own dark nights of the soul. So that's how I managed to connect with her. So what else makes a good reading? I want to know that they want to answer my questions and not just fire irrelevant or uninteresting information at me. So when I'm doing a psychic reading, say I'm not channeling Maat, I'm just doing a reading, I want to spend the first 10 or 15 minutes of the session just telling the client what's coming through for them and my impressions and any information that's coming through or I'm picking up that might help them, before they say anything about themselves. And then it's time for them to ask any questions they have. Everyone who comes for a reading comes for a specific purpose. There's something going on in their lives. They need clarity, they need guidance, they need answers. And so I want to make sure that they get their questions answered. And I know, there are some psychics who just bombard you with information and you don't get to barely get a word in. and they don't actually ask you what you're doing there or what you need. I don't like that. I'm very curious. I'm very intellectually curious, and I got where I am today because I've always had a lot of questions and I needed answers. I added up the other day how many channelers I've actually spoken to all over the world since 2007, and I started talking to channelers, and I've actually spoken to 20 channelers, and obviously I've spoken to some of those channelers more than once. So, you might say I've been doing my own research in this area, but always it was to get my own questions answered. I had questions and I wanted to know. And so I think that's true of a lot of people. Certainly when you're working with a channeler, the way the information is drawn through from higher dimensions or from that higher essence or source is that the question brings the answer through, and Goddess Maat says that. So when you go to a channeler, usually it's about you asking questions, and that's how most channelers work, and then they will answer you. And they might ask you a clarifying question to make sure that they're on the right track and they're giving you what you need, or they're eliciting information from you. Sometimes questions are like when I'm counselling people. I ask questions to make the client think and to make the client see something they might not have seen before, and to bring them closer to self-awareness. So that's also true when you're having a session with a channeler. Often the higher source, the being that you're talking to, will ask you questions to make you think and to empower you. Remember, all sessions with any reader should be about empowering you and not disempowering you. And that's why some questions cannot be answered. So sometimes it's not in your highest good to know the answer to the question. After all, if we were meant to know the future, wouldn't we already know it? And don't forget that this whole notion that anybody can, with 100% of accuracy, answer all of your questions and tell you what's in your future is honestly just BS. You are creating your reality with every choice that you make, every thought that you think, every feeling or emotion that you have. You are creating your reality, and every time you make a different choice, you change the timeline you're on, you change your future. So no one with complete authenticity can tell you with 100% of accuracy what your future is going to be. What people with psychic skills, what remote viewers, anybody who can look into the future can tell you is what the potentials or the probabilities are going to be given the energy expression that you have at that time, the choices that you're making. And if you don't like the future that the reader is telling you about, that's a good, because you can change your choices. And sometimes it does alleviate your anxiety or your worry, or just give you a bit of an uplift to know that you're going to rendezvous with one of your desires, or more than one of your desires, down the path somewhere. So, readings are about uplifting, and being told that you're creating a good future for yourself is certainly a wonderful thing to hear. But remember, there are many charlatans in this field, and it's a bit like, that skincare cream that tells you it's going to take away all your wrinkles, or that pill that's going to tell you you're going to lose 10 kilos in the next month. Okay, you have to use your own discernment, right? You have to use your own discernment. Don't ever give your power away by 100% believing anything that anyone tells you, including me. Use your own discernment and know that there are people who can tune into the future and read potentials of the future, and I am one of those, but I cannot with 100% of accuracy tell you exactly what your future is going to be, and maybe it's not the right thing for you to hear it anyway. So sometimes Goddess Maat will say, we can't answer that right now, or, they're not going to answer it, and you just have to respect that. Don't think that the reader is a crap reader because they're not answering every question that you have about what's coming up in your future. People often ask questions like, is this guy the perfect one for me? Well, that's disempowering you. You're the only one that gets to make up your mind about that. Your higher self, your soul, is not going to disempower you by saying, yes, this is your husband. This is the one that you're going to marry and have 10 babies with. Go. Because that would be, taking away your own free will And no higher being is going to take away your free will. They're not allowed to. And so just bear that in mind, that be careful when you're asking a question that you really want to hear the answer. If someone asks me, is my marriage going to break up and there are children involved, I'm never going to answer. But I can bring through guidance that will help you make that decision for yourself. And that's what makes a good reading. So I hope you've enjoyed this today. And as I said before, this is a discussion. So I would love to hear from you. Do you agree with me or do you disagree? Much love and blessings, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity.